Hey guys, it's Kylie. I want to apologize because I'm a little bit disgusting. I just worked out, but I'm worried that if I don't record now, I'm not going to have a chance to because it's Game of Thrones Day again somehow, and I'm behind, and yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to answer some asks that I've gotten, and I'm going to start with non-Turf Wars asks, and then I'll let you know when we're transitioning into spoilers on Turf Wars. So we'll have a heads up. And yep, just gonna try to move through these. Portal to a New Era said, so I have a major nitpick, oxymoron, I know it is, with Korra that I wanted to know your thoughts on if you have any. What do you think of the relative lack of firebending in LOK compared with Atla with the other elements? The only firebender in the main cast is Mako. We don't go to the Fire Nation at all, and the fire doesn't really advance the same way as the other three elements. All we have is lightning, and that doesn't really help. I really missed fire, but what do you think? I actually disagree a good deal, mostly because I would say fire is Korra's go-to element, and I think the way she used it was really, really inventive. Additionally, I mean, I guess we saw the lightning powering factories. I know what you mean, that there wasn't lava bending coming out of it, and we didn't see air bending being used to murder the Earth Queen. That was a good advancement. Did water really advance that much? Spirity calming down water, I guess. We did go to the Fire Nation very briefly, with at the Juan episodes. Korra was there. That's where she was getting healed. Oh wait, we saw fire healing. Yeah, no. So yeah, it didn't bother me. Maybe it should have bothered me more, but I actually didn't really notice that discrepancy so much. I think there was a good balance, and especially with how central the Fire Nation was to everything in Atla, I was actually kind of happy for a little bit of a break, I think. Anon said, since when have you been dating him? Griffin, yeah, since April. Thank you. Anon said, I think Jean Yang just used Azula as backfold villain and nothing more in his comics. No wonder her arc in Smoke and Shadow is so random, almost forced. What makes Show Azula so special is her unique complexity. In the comics, she's two dimensions, so yes, if we want to speak objectively about her portrayal, she is indeed evil and crazy and needed to go down, which is quite disappointing for the antagonist. Has so much depth and potential to explore. Yeah, I mean, I do want to go back and revisit the Atla comics, but I pretty much agree with it. I think, power hungry wanting the throne Azula, that wasn't really super in evidence in the show. Actually, when Sozin says, I'm going to be making you Fire Lord, she's like, Fire Lord Azula, I suppose it is fitting. That wasn't in her design at all. So yeah, it's disappointing to see that. I would have liked the comics to see her go in a different direction. And if those continue, I'd really, really like it if there's a writer that could flesh her out in a different way and give her maybe some kind of movement towards healing. That would be really good. Anon said, something unnoticed was when Korra realized she and Asami were captured after waking up from the spirit world. Okay, so this is at the end of the stakeout. The first thing she asks is if Asami's okay. She didn't ask where they were, what happened, or where Mako and Bolin were. Her first thought was Asami's well-being. Yeah, I mean, she cares about her friend at the same time Asami's also, chained up right in front of her. It's I could call it subtle Korrasami, but, I think if my friend was chained in front of me, that might be my first question too, to be perfectly honest. Anon, can you remind me of something? Was the Avatar statue built by Asami? I was reading Supergirl spoilers, so I won't get into that about love parallels, but yes, totally. I can't stop thinking, I don't remember. No, it's complete fanon, actually. I certainly ran with it in Seeking Sada. Well, I had her, I think, sarcastically suggest a statue of Korra, and then Sarika was like, yeah, okay, let's put it in, so there's that. But it's fanon based on a little bit of analysis. I mean, Asami's the one who redesigned the entire infrastructure, so it would kind of make sense that she had a say in what the park's design would look like, sort of, but, frankly, the role that she had as a logistics engineer / city planner, I don't know, it's a little woolly, but no, nothing confirmed. It's not like Brian telling us that she did the squirrel suits at Comic-Con or anything. Okay, Anon said, and this is going to be a light transition into Turf Wars spoilers. So the first couple of Anons I have are sort of about Turf Wars. No full spoilers yet. I appreciate your apology video. Thanks for clearing that up. You seem like a really genuine, nice person. Oh, thank you. That said, it feels like a lot of negativity here sometimes, and in a lot of analyses and reviews, it can get frustrating. You, of course, have the right to your opinions, but I just request a slightly more understanding, less dogmatic approach. Thanks. I don't know if this is just about the review that I wrote or if this is like the way I sort of pick things apart in my definitive ranking pieces or whatnot. And I do hear this. I think part of what it is that I genuinely enjoy exposing flaws, and I actually find a bit of a beauty in how the flaws work to paint a narrative that is, in the end, really compelling. So, like, to me, this is all coming from a place of love and coming from a place of truly understanding the writing process and what works on every level of it. So, it's not a negative thing that I'm doing when I'm digging into it like this, but I can definitely see how from a different angle it would seem that way. Changing my approach, like, yeah, I can try to be more cognizant, especially that last definitive ranking piece, or second to last definitive ranking piece for Korra. I think it was, yeah, you know what? It was Final Stand, that piece. That ended up being a lot more negative than I wanted it to originally, which was weird because I absolutely loved the episode and I had to write a follow-up to be like, okay, I was just focusing on this, but like, yeah, it works. Nan said, is the reason Korra is protective of Asami that she's not a bender? She was never that way with Mako. Okay, so I'm just gonna start talking about Turf Wars overtly now, so if you haven't read it, turn it off. But I mean, not just Turf Wars. You know, yeah, I think, yeah, Asami's not a bender, and I've actually said this before, but Asami's not even like Suki or Ty Lee or Mei. She's not an elite fighter. She's trained in self-defense. She's trained to protect herself because her dad was really, like, worried about her getting attacked and, you know, an equalist. But, yeah, like, she'll fight. She's very capable. She's actually ridiculously overpowered in the shows. Not overpowered, but, like, she never really gets hit. And I just really want to see her get fucked up one day. Because no one touches her. But, yeah, you know, first and foremost, her brain is her weapon, right? And then she dons the shock glove and she'll jump into action where it makes sense. But she's not going to be asked to go against, like, Unavatu or anything like that. So I think Korra is just sort of aware of her differing capabilities. And at the end of Turf Wars, frankly, Korra saving her from that rock to her face, I wanted her to get hit in the face with the rock. I think that was a little weird. I think that whole fight, like, the staging just didn't really make a lot of sense because it just kind of seemed like, you know, Asami's usually pretty good at closing the gaps, and she got hit in the face with water, but I could see Korra jumping in, I guess. It was just a little like, oh, you know, they wanted a reason to have this moment between them. Compare that to, like, the Earth Queen episode when you see Korra, like, earthbend that wall of earth to save Asami from one of the motorcyclists that was coming at her, or when they're on the train in Reunion and Korra's, like, standing in front of her and kind of, like, blocking the metal that's coming at them. So yeah, I think that's just, you know, she was never that way with Mako. I don't think she was really ever in that situation with Mako either. Like, he can dodge pretty well. She'll help any of her friends out of a jam if it's within her capacity. But yeah, you know, Asami's not a super powered lady. Anonymous said, very important, has it, I think that means Turf Wars, changed how you think of Project Ass since the comic. Project Ass being the Asami Sato saga. So I have written 3 pieces of fanfic that feeds into this. Griffin has written 4. And it's a series. It's a series of different fanfics called Spin the Rails, and we've codenamed it Asami Sato Saga or Ass on Archive of Our Own. And it tells the story of Asami starting from in between book 1 and book 2, all the way through his post-canon story, repairs, retrofits, and upgrades. So the short answer is no. The longer answer is, you know, we always knew these comics were coming down the pipeline, and this is just the story we wanted to tell. Even if I thought that Turf Wars fit within the canon, which I don't believe it does, I still rank comic canon below show canon, and as a fic writer, the only thing I have any sort of commitment to is writing in the show. So, like, you'll see, I did this in a guy named Kanto and Tribunals a bit. I'd have, like, nods to stuff that happened in the Rift or the Promise, but I'm not, like, you know, a slave to those plot lines, and I'm definitely never going to do anything that canonizes North and South. So, like, yeah, the approach to Project S is completely the same. You know, if there's some good stuff that's like worth borrowing and worth giving nods to, we'll do that. I've actually threw some shade on this. This is long before the Turf Wars was released, but I threw some shade on the amusement park idea because like when we first got the description, we're like, what, amusement park? Like, Frank, what are you doing? What are these politics? So I threw some shade, and I had Asami be like, what are you going to do, build a Ferris wheel? So yeah, it might affect like little Easter egg things, but the overall approach, no, not at all. Anon said, haven't read your review. While I felt like there were issues, I'm in bliss mode. Seeing old friends again, don't feel like engaging in criticism. Yeah, that's totally fine. But I would love to get in Asami's head, and I'm wondering if you could interpret the moment in the tent where she hung back and it upset Korra. I think it will come up again and we'll get an explanation, but I wanted to hear your thoughts. I mean, I think Asami's right. Like, you know, that's her skill set isn't really inspiring the people of Republic City. She might be a public figure, but she's still, I mean, this is a little bit of headcanon, but I imagine her as a rather private person. She's not exactly going to be giving like rousing speeches. She'll be talking about her new products or whatever. So she basically comes back, she sees that there's nothing that's been done for the housing and that she could really help out with that. So that's what she would rather focus on, and that's what she would rather do. What upset Korra was her indelicate wording when she said, oh, I want to do something more practical. Because, of course, there is complete pragmatism in keeping people's spirits up. And Asami sort of awkwardly explained it. But, you know, keep in mind, she's been working 3 years. She was separate from Korra, just head down, working on the infrastructure, working on very, like, measurable things. And she's an engineer. That's just what she does. So I don't know if we're going to get a fuller explanation, but that might come up again, like, what do you think it is I do? And what I really, really, really hope comes up is, what is it that Korra does? Because she's no longer the bridge. So, you know, and that's obviously what that spirit conflict set up at the end. But I think that's a really, really good tension to explore, and I hope that's what they focus on more. Anon said, is it fair to say if you weren't Jewish, you would have liked everything? If I wasn't Jewish, I wouldn't be me. So I have literally no way to answer that. Yeah, sorry. Anon, actually, I can imagine the Earth Kingdom as a bit homophobic, and the Water Tribe's mentality makes sense too, but I can't believe that the Fire Nation is so homophobic where we see female soldiers and Azula almost being crowned Fire Lord, and heck, Azumi being the current one. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I mean, I'll push back on the homophobic Earth Kingdom idea just because it's so large and decentralized. I don't think you can broad brush any sort of prejudice there. But with the Fire Nation, that jumps out so much. Not just that Azula was going to be made Fire Lord, but Azulan favoring her so heavily. You know, she's a second-born girl and there's a first-born boy. Like, unless it's a pretty egalitarian society, that really sticks out. Although I will say, the longer I think about it, and I'll link my full piece, the longer I think about it, the one that makes the least amount of sense, and I feel like such an ass saying this because it's like so happy and positive, but the free love airbenders, just like, they're monks on gender segregated island. I don't see that really fitting with what's described of that lifestyle usually there's not high degrees of any sort of sexual autonomy. And then this is another non in the same vein. I don't get the whole Sozin homophobia thing. Wasn't his whole shtick wanting the Fire Nation Golden Age to prosper? I mean, okay, it didn't work out for them. Also, yeah, you know, I don't really see the Sozin thing working out either. I'll just direct you to where we break it down. Also, if the spiritual leader is LGBTQ+, shouldn't that be all people to show them the God spirit is like perfectly... I'm sorry, I'm reading poorly. The avatar looks to them as a leader and a godlike figure. Yeah, I mean, like the Dalai Lama, I wouldn't say godlike, but yeah, definitely they look to the avatar for guidance. So the idea that there are, you know, bisexual or gay avatars and people are like, well, I don't accept this, that's questionable. That's questionable. We can have a spirited debate about the role of a spiritual leader, but I would think that's a little strange, like, overall. So... yeah, that's all the asks I have time for because I'm reaching 15 minutes because I babble. I thought I was talking fast enough to get through all these. Sorry. But thank you for sending them in. I'd like to do more of these if I can. And then obviously once the digital release is out, I'll feel less nervous about typing anything to do with Turf Wars because I just don't want to spoil it, everyone. So thank you all for this and for really just being, by and large, understanding. I appreciate every ask that you guys sent me, even like there's a lot I can't publish that were basically like I agree or disagree, but they mean a lot. So yeah, thank you all, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Justine Nimero say hello for everyone.